And that's all she wrote. Another CES is in the books. Hey there, this episode of Some Gadget Guy is brought to you in part by Qualcomm. A major thank you to Qualcomm for helping me with travel and accommodations to this year's show. And of course, by viewers like you, all of the incredible people sharing content across social media and the generosity of my patrons at patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. More info on those awesome nerds later in the video. It has been so long since I've been in person at a CES. I've helped other outlets run coverage, just doing remote, but I'm really glad to be back. This was an interesting show with some really fun high points and some concerns on the horizon for some of the future of consumer electronics. The Consumer Electronics Show had a lot of conversation about much bigger and broader topics, but we'll get to that in just a second. Really, the wrap up for me and the victories that we got to see, for a channel like mine, obviously I like to cover a lot of mobile. Some of the products that we play with, the phones and tablets and laptops, I like the tech that we can take with us that kind of helps us flesh out our daily lives. And CES isn't always the show that's known for a lot of phone and tablet announcements, but phones were pretty strong. Phones were well represented this year. Of course, lots of buzz about folding phones again, Samsung releasing their trifold. I really didn't get a chance to go hands-on with that, but I did get to peek the announcements from Lenovo and Motorola. Premium line of fashion-focused, high-performance devices, and of course, the Razr Fold, a book-style foldable from the brand that's giving us one of the best versions of a flip phone. Now they're trying their hand at a mini tablet, what folds in half and turns into a slightly thicker phone. Motorola has a lot of potential in this space to kind of help shake this up. I always still question how much room there is in the market for more folding phones, but Motorola getting into this space should help a lot as another opportunity for consumers to find this idea, and maybe it's the right fit for their needs. We like that competition. Competition breeds more discussion and more examination of that idea. I really enjoyed walking through TCL's booth and getting to see some of the advancements with Next Paper. Their tablets looked really sharp. I'm really looking at one of those tablets for my daughter. I know people have been mentioning compromises about that screen technology and whether or not it can go full LCD, full color, but that's the kind of experience I'd actually like to share with my daughter. I know that's not the pitch that TCL's making, save your students' eyes, but as a parent, and I'm very concerned about the amount of screen time my daughter is already getting at school, that actually isn't a bad concept. Maybe just not giving her the option of switching the screen mode might be something that's good for her. But we can't talk mobile at CES and not acknowledge that the sweetheart, the big topic of discussion was Clicks. The Clicks Power Keyboard, I went hands-on with that at Showstoppers. I got to meet up with my buddy, Michael Fisher. It's been way too long since I've seen him in person. Very much appreciate the company acknowledging some of the shortcomings of their previous Clicks cases. They haven't made a case yet that fits any of the phones that I would want to use on the daily, but the Power Keyboard using MagSafe magnets, much better concept to fit a wider variety of devices so that you can cover more consumers. The first thing I did was walk up and hand him my OnePlus, and he was skeptical, but this has magnets in the case, snapped right on, worked a trick. And with the pedigree and the talent on that design team over at Clicks, we're all interested. We're all lit up about the Clicks communicator. But I really think we do a disservice to phones when we treat phones as all one thing. There are some phones which really should just be for communication. There are some phones that are about multimedia, content creation, gaming. The communicator idea right now, I think, is the concept that's most overlooked by phone manufacturers, all trying to make these kinds of everything in the kitchen sink devices. We know it's not a massive part of the phone market, but I think there is a sizable interest in a phone that you just pull out of your pocket, respond to messages, try and take a quick phone call, put the phone back in your pocket and get on with your day, knowing that streamlined interaction is going to deliver you huge battery life. The removable back returns, a headphone jack returns, the memory card slot returns. There's so much about this that makes it the practical daily companion lifestyle computer. I think there are a lot of people out there that if they could find that concept, they would enjoy that experience a lot. Continuing on the idea of mobility, laptops had a pretty strong showing at this year's show too. I was really interested in the Gigabyte announcement. I didn't get a lot of time to go hands-on, but just the idea that they're going to be streamlining their portfolio of laptops, focusing on the high end. How many times have we seen manufacturers say, we've got to streamline and reach a broader consumer base, and you end up with this kind of milquetoast, jack of all trades, master of none kind of product. They can shave costs and deliver a more budget, blah, blah, blah. And Gigabyte went in the opposite direction. We know what our customers are coming to us for. Maybe we don't need to spend as much time with all of these other options in our lineup, and we can just focus on big CPU, big GPU, go play your games. We know the battery life's not gonna be great, but you're gonna plug it in and have a grand old time. Laptops had such a strong showing that even one of my favorite mini PC manufacturers had a range of portable computers to show off as well, a new line of premium Intel-based laptops that they're showing off, and hopefully they'll find some success there. They have plans to expand their roster from Intel to AMD systems too. A lot of companies showing stuff off right now though with that kind of fog of uncertainty as to what's going to happen in the market. I would try to pin these companies down like, oh, so this is laptop, when's it going to come out and how much is it going to cost? And so many people at these booths were like, well, we don't know and we don't know. But if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that I'm a big fan of ARM-based computing. From mobile products to now laptops, we've seen an explosion in this power efficiency, this performance per watt conversation. It makes so much more sense when we start taking computers out of the office and we start using them more on battery power and using them more, really trying to get the full performance of that system without having to plug it in. Intel and AMD are making some great progress in improving the efficiency of x86, but mostly because ARM is coming for their business, is coming for their market share. Recently, Qualcomm announced the follow-up to the Snapdragon X. I have my Surface Laptop 7. That's what I brought with me on my trip to kind of leave in my hotel room as a little editing station. It did me really well for the couple videos that I needed to put together there. Genuinely is one of the best Windows laptops I've ever owned. So of course I'm excited to see that the follow-up, the X2, is raising some of those performance stakes. We're still having conversations about power and efficiency, obviously making a more powerful computer. Those higher end SKUs are probably going to draw a little bit more power, kind of shrink that battery life a little bit. But the big announcement here was also a refresh for the X2 Plus. That chip delivering a more mainstream performance profile. It's not going to be a gaming kind of component, but you could probably still play some games on it. The higher end SKUs for Qualcomm were announced late last year, but we did get to see some of those components in real world systems today. The partners with Qualcomm like Asus and HP delivering on ARM powered PCs. The Asus lineup was very impressive, but again, we still have some uncertainty as to pricing and availability. I was at the Qualcomm event and I went to go pick up the Asus and I lifted it with enough force that I almost flung it off the table when I first tried to check it out. And I thought, you know, maybe this is just a shell. Maybe this is just kind of like their demo so that you could see what the casing was going to be like, but no, it's a full-fledged computer with the X2 Elite Extreme. The Extreme! 48 gigabytes of RAM, all the bells and whistles. Like they're just going full on. We wanted to make the absolute best thin and light executive grade notebook that we could. And I'm sure it's going to have an executive price tag to match once we figure out how much it might cost. I feel I should share a few thoughts on all of the AI. If you were catching just the main massive corporate announcements from this year's show, it was all AI all the time. I sat in on a conference, you know, a discussion about, you know, the future of AI and AI PCs and how do we get consumers in. I feel like this show was sort of the launch pad for the next phase, the next conversation topic. You know, all the companies here sort of detailed what they're going to focus on next, and now the media has their marching orders on how we're going to talk about AI. This is sort of the fourth iteration from just language learning models starting to pop up as revenue generating systems or platforms to then we went to generative AI, making, you know, images out of this kind of prompt-based interaction. Then we got agentic AI, which was how can we use these language models to perform tasks for end users. And this year was really focused on physical AI with a focus on robotics and self-driving autonomous vehicles. Each of those ideas is kind of repackaged from previous eras of technology, but now we're bringing some kind of system that can communicate with the user in a more natural way. I do want to be a bit more interested and excited because as we start talking about moving some of those systems and platforms into the real world, that's where I get more interested about AI. It's from moving, you know, off of data centers and cloud back down to individual devices and local compute power. We have to train up those models, we have to improve those systems, but then it should happen locally. You can't trust physical AI interaction if it has to go up over a 5G data connection, and you severely curtail the number of consumers who might be able to interact with that because not a lot of people have great data outside of massive city areas. In that, when we start talking about like the little NPUs that go in our phone and laptop chips, I see that there is actually some potential there. Once those models get trained, we can bring them into more practical spheres of interaction. But I gotta say, the way that the top tech organizations are talking about training these systems is a little concerning. It starts to get a little ghastly. There's a vested interest in certain corporations to sell as much infrastructure and AI as they possibly can. So if you're training data, well, you need an AI to sort that data, and then that interacts with a prompt, and then you need to check the results of that AI with another AI, and then that translates into a physical interaction. So an AI has to talk to a robot, and then that still has to cross-check so that the robot doesn't do anything dangerous, and is like, well, obviously you need an AI at the end to kind of recap all of the information that was out there, and if the robot hasn't been trained on data, well, you probably need another AI to facilitate that too. It just makes me a little concerned because we're kind of selling like that stacking doll idea of AI within AI, cross-checking AI, and then verified by AI. Reading around on social media, checking out some of the posts on Reddit, and especially for folks in my audience, some of the comments I've been getting, I can appreciate we're here at the Consumer Electronics Show, and so many of the major announcements might have held up, like a phone or a laptop, and then immediately dovetail into infrastructure, networking, and AI. It doesn't feel great thinking like these companies are sort of focused on a post-consumer marketplace. If massive corporations can just keep investing in each other and impressing shareholders with those kinds of business strategies, then the old school idea of making a product and selling it to an individual and making a profit off of that becomes kind of quaint. And if you like gadgets and gizmos, we don't want that to be quaint, we want that to be real, so we get more cool toys to play with. Kind of dovetailing out of AI, what I thought was actually a major win at this year's show was the proliferation of various types of headsets and smart glasses. I am insufferable. I have been an advocate for a heads-up display kind of interaction since the early days of Google Glass. It drives me crazy how neglected this idea has been over the last 13 years. But over the last, I would say, 18 months, we've seen an explosion in technology that actually verifies this concept and realizes it for more and more people to give it a try. It's maturing in a way where I think more people can take a chance on it and experience and appreciate what that experience has to offer. So from the split being more gaming and XR style experiences or more heads-up display AI kinds of experiences, we saw companies taking big steps to put more compute on your face. Several companies on the show floor coming out to show off new XR and cinema style glasses. These are glasses you put on and you see like a projection of a massive screen in front of you. They're not daily wear, all the time wearable kinds of glasses. They're more, how do I pack a second screen that can interact with a phone, a tablet, or a laptop, and then see a massive projection out in space in front of me, but it can also fold up and fit in a shirt pocket. I think X-Real had one of the more interesting announcements on this year's show. They were showing off the X1S, which was released just a little while ago. Just a mid-generation refresh off of the X-Real 1 glasses that I've reviewed on this. Just nice little quality of life improvements, but probably the most bleeding edge version of this idea. So when we talk about like head tracking and smoothing out your video so you don't get like motion sick, all of that tech is built into the glasses. You don't have to connect them to another spatial brain or another hub or anything like that. But on top of showing off that refresh, they also announced a partnership with ASUS. This is like the second appearance of ASUS in this video. They're making an actual co-branded ROG, Republic of Gamers headset. So it's, it's got a little more sort of Transformers, edgy kind of design language, but it's not just a repackage of their existing tech. They're using different prisms. These are a brighter headset, and they scale up to 240 hertz refresh. So especially for folks who like to play more competitive games, or you just want the ultra sleekest, silkiest, fluid frame rate, and you can power 240 hertz, now you've got a portable monitor, a wearable monitor, can fit in a shirt pocket, that can scale up with that kind of gaming performance. The flip side of that, the folks over at Rokid also makes a line of cinema-style display XR glasses, but they were on the show floor showing off something a little bit different. They are trying their hands at a waveguide optic heads-up display. Now this is different. Instead of having a rich multimedia experience, what if we just put a smartwatch up at eye level? All of your notifications, your alerts, calendar, and basic AI search conversational interactions can happen right from your glasses. I love this concept. It's the type of product you can wear all day. Right now I'm wearing my Even Realities G1, first generation of these glasses. I'm actually gonna go hit their booth again because these glasses kind of wigged out on me. They stopped giving me notifications and alerts during the show, which was kind of terrible. I live in these glasses like all day when I'm out and about, and it was driving me crazy. Like I'd feel a buzz on my phone and then I would have to check my watch like a plebe. Rokit is taking their version of this concept a little bit differently. What I like is when we kind of position the waveguides so that we still have a clear line of sight so we can see what's happening in the world in front of us, and then we lift or lower to get the information that we want to see. For the Even Realities, you lift up. The information arrives above your line of sight. The Rokit concept arrives lower. So you can still see very clearly what's going on, and then you just kind of dip if you catch a piece of information or you want to interact with the UI on those glasses. So while Even Realities has definitely kind of captured a bit more of that mind share, any more competition we get in this space will make all of these products better. These companies will have to kind of battle it out to see who can offer up the sleekest, the fastest, the best version of this, the lightest, so that you can wear them all day, the best battery life. That's where these things really start to scale up. And I hope more people start taking those ideas more seriously. And lastly, because of all the AI news, I don't know if people have really gotten the sense of how exciting some of the gadgetry has been. It was just a really solid show for accessories and content and cameras, all of the gimbals and lights and lenses that you play with when you're trying to make stuff on the go. There was a little bit of an absence with DJI facing the political issues that they're having right now, that other companies at CES were able to step up and kind of fill in some of those conversational gaps with things like drones and gimbals and action cameras and stabilizers and just really cool gear. I think that's kind of the note to leave off of, is this was actually a really strong year for that walk up to the booth, see something wacky, see something new, see something practical, and products that are actually in production, like things that are actually delivering to consumers, but you might not see that from all of the headlines, the major headlines on the show being focused on AI. It's that kind of stuff that gets me really lit up. It's always a lot of energy building up to a CES, but then I get here and I have a really good time when I find those types of little pockets of activity, and so I was really stoked to be able to hit this year's show. You can catch all the little experiences that I had on the CES show floor. And again, I have to throw another thank you to the folks at Qualcomm for covering my travel and my stay here in Vegas. I really appreciate that. It made covering this year's show so much easier, and it kind of dovetailed with one of the announcements I was most excited about. I mean, that's just synergy. They're not paying for content. They're not sponsoring this video. They just helped cover my travel to the show, and they did it at a time where I absolutely would have been in the room to talk about those laptop chips regardless. So folks, thanks so much for watching, for sharing these videos, subscribing to the channel, and smashing bell icon, all the stuff that helps with the algorithms, right? We all have to do that spiel. I love getting to dig into this stuff. I have so much that I want to talk about and cover post-show, and also we've had phone announcements and gadget announcements. I've got coverage that's going to be coming up just the first of the year. We've just started 2026, and I'm already off like a shot. There is so much to talk about, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So the folks who get to see those videos first, all of my testing and reviews, are of course my incredible patrons, all of the people over on patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. They're basically the coolest tech pals in the universe. So I hope you'll check them out. I hope you'll consider joining the community at patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. Now, you can find me around the rest of the internet at SomeGadgetGuy, basically everywhere. But these days, I'm trying to spend a bit more time on the Mastodons, a lot less so on the Facebooks, Threads, Instagrams, and none at all on that dumpster fire site. And I will catch you all on the next video.